In Module 2, we're going to be examining in some detail Darwin's most dangerous idea, which was evolution by means of natural selection. A fascinating, incredible breakthrough that he published in 1859, what we really call a paradigm shift, totally changing our view of how the natural world came to be. Darwin hit the nail on the head. He didn't know about genetics, he didn't know microbiology, but he knew there was some unseen force, which he called natural selection, that was actually crafting life on the planet. And of course, we apply this to humans in this course. We'll talk about Darwin's voyage around the world, why that was so important to him, particularly his time in the Galapagos Islands, where he noticed variation, and he noticed that different kinds of birds were adapted to specific kinds of diet. He had studied pigeons and domestic selection for, say, different kinds of dogs, which we call artificial selection, that were the seeds of his ideas for natural selection. We'll hear that Alfred Russel Wallace, who was an extraordinary naturalist, came to exactly the same idea virtually at the same time as Darwin, and actually wrote to Darwin, and that is what urged Darwin to finally publish his book in 1859. We'll talk about those naturalists like Lyell, a geologist; Cuvier, a paleontologist, father of paleontology; Linnaeus, the father of classification, of how we classify all these animals. All of these naturalists were laying the foundation for understanding diversity and natural selection and essentially the theory of evolution. We'll talk about what a species is, why this species is different from that species, what we mean by a species, the current definition of living species, the definition of species in the past, which are called paleospecies. We'll talk about how they are all organized in this classification of Linnaeus so that we can reflect relationships, evolutionary backgrounds, connectedness, common ancestry, and so on. And we'll talk a little bit about different ways to represent in cladograms as well as family trees the relationships between the diversity of life on this planet. And we'll begin to think about the origins of primates. Primates like chimpanzees. When did they first arrive? Why are they so closely related to us? How do we know they're so closely related? We'll look at their genetics and so on. And we will begin to look at this great diversity of primates that include monkeys and apes, ourselves, and little things like lemurs and lorises, and understand perhaps the beginnings of this very interesting zoological order that Linnaeus called the primates.